Support WrestleTalk!
Boy, I'm glad we didn't have a news show in the 90s, because I would have gotten sick talking about the Montreal Screwjob too. Hi there, I'm Tempest, your Jam That Champion, and we're here to talk about Colt Cabana and CM Punk again. But first, who's this? This isn't my normal co-host. It's Dave Bradshaw, voice of British wrestling, writer for the WrestleTalk magazine, and all-around swell guy. Hi, Dave. Thank you for being here. I'm wonderful.
Good.
I'm absolutely wonderful. We get to talk about this again, because there is new information once again about the CM Punk and Colt Cabana whole fiasco that we've got going on in AEW. It's just the biggest news story of the year, it seems, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. So, Dave Meltzer has reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week that things are not exactly getting better between CM Punk and AEW, being made worse by Colt Cabana's appearance on AEW Dynamite recently. He said, Colt Cabana wrestling Chris Jericho only made things worse as far as issues between the two sides. Punk remains adamant he had nothing to do with Cabana being gone. A lot of talent in AEW believe and insist differently, and it's openly talked about. Cabana being back only fueled that, especially because it was Tony Khan's decision and not a suggestion someone else came up with. There also has been no change as far as we know in the Punk contract situation, in that he's still under contract there and they were selling his merchandise this past week at the arena. So Dave, what do you make of all this? This is a somewhat new development in that it's not getting better. A lot of hope that had kind of come out about this whole thing was that maybe over time, these sides between Punk and AEW could come back together and just time healing all wounds, but that doesn't appear to be the case. It seems to be getting worse.
No, I mean, what I don't understand is the mystery behind it, because it's pretty clear to everyone, right, what's happening in terms of like which side of the argument Tony Khan has fallen on, because we know the Elite are coming back for Full Gear this week, and we know that the timing of Colt Cabana being sent to Ring of Honor and then brought back to AEW is coincidental, if nothing else. You know, I know he said that it's nothing to do with Punk, and Punk said that, but like, come on. I mean, he's gone at that exact time, and then as soon as Punk's gone, he's brought back in. So it kind of tells you where Tony Khan is, right, in terms of whose side he's going to be on, because presumably he can't run a promotion that has CM Punk and the Elite, given what happened.
Doesn't seem that way at the moment.
And so he's brought back, you know, we know who's back and who's around. What's odd, I think, is why they're still selling CM Punk merchandise.
Well, you go. They had it. They made it, and they got to get rid of it, I guess. You can
imagine, if you're a casual fan, right, and you go to an AEW show and you're not aware of all the goings-on, you know, and they sell you an expensive CM Punk t-shirt, a t-shirt for a guy who then never wrestles for them again, you could imagine you might be a little bit
It could well
annoyed,
be.
Right?
Could well be. I think most people going to an AEW show at this point probably know about this story, but I do absolutely agree. It's a little bit odd. But again, this does seem to hint at the fact that a CM Punk return to AEW is maybe not as likely as some people were hoping it would be. Again, everybody's got their own thoughts and feelings about CM Punk being back in AEW or possibly in WWE or whatnot. But what we might know a little bit more about is his recovery time, because lost in all of this is the fact that he is recovering from an injury, a serious injury. He's recovering from a torn triceps, which usually keeps people out about 6 to 8 months. But it was also reported in the Observer that Punk's recovery is supposedly going really well. That's very interesting, because again, whether this is all possible or not, I would probably err on the side of likely not possible, but there has been a lot of talk recently about people wanting to see a potential match at WrestleMania with Steve Austin. Now that is maybe more on the side of fantasy than...
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. But it does make it a little bit more interesting when you think about if Punk were to wrestle again in the near future, where that could be and how soon we could see that happening.
Okay, let's address the WrestleMania thing, right? There are so many reasons why that couldn't and shouldn't happen. First of all, the contract. We don't know what his AEW contract status is. We hear this talk about them buying it out. If they do, though, is there this non-compete clause? Will that expire by WrestleMania? So there's that. Secondly, there's Steve Austin. I mean, there's all this talk about Steve Austin coming back. Great, if he can do something similar to what he did with Kevin Owens this year. But look, Steve Austin, I'm sure, would be the first to tell you that he can't move around like he did in the past. So to have a kind of a sort of a segment that turns into a brawl like he had with Owens is one thing, but all this talk of like a dream match against CM Punk or against John Cena or against whoever, I mean that's going to be hard for Austin to pull off. And one of the reasons Austin retired in the first place was he felt, given his injuries, he couldn't compete at the level he wanted to compete at. So whether he would want to compete in a match against CM Punk, given what the expectations would be for the quality of that, I think is doubtful. But then thirdly, and this is probably the most difficult of all, is CM Punk's relationship with WWE. Now, we know that Vince McMahon in the past has brought back people who had said horrible things about him, because if it was good for business, he would do it anyway. We're yet to see, I think, whether Triple H is the same. He's learned a lot from Vince. He says that himself. He spent years being sort of Vince's protege in the company, so you would hope that he might sort of be able to do that. But there is a lot of water under the bridge with him and CM Punk, and you've got to think it would be if Punk came to WWE for a WrestleMania match, it would have to be like a one and done, right?
You would probably have to think so. I think there's a lot of interesting angles to that in particular. I think Steve Austin's match with Kevin Owens was really good, to the point where if they kind of smoke and mirrors it, made it a no holds barred brawl more or less type of match, I think that could still be very good. And CM Punk has proven, especially in this last run, that he is a very thoughtful wrestler when it comes to his in-ring performance and everything. So I think they could tailor a match with the two of them and have it be good. But again, that's more on the fantasy side of things, because a return to WWE still seems pretty unlikely for all the reasons that you gave. So maybe we look at this and say CM Punk is recovering ahead of schedule. Does that mean, again, that we could see him back in AEW? I think the first part of this video and the first part of that whole chunk of the quote probably tells you that that's still not likely to be the case. But there's been word out that CM Punk has the wrestling bug and wants to do this again. That's not from CM Punk himself, but from sources close to CM Punk. I believe that came from Fightful Select. It still becomes very interesting because there's still a lot of money being left on the table here with this AEW run. I don't know, as a fan, that I wouldn't want to see CM Punk and Hangman Page again in the ring, or CM Punk and FTR against the Elite in the ring, and hopefully draw some money with it. When asked about CM Punk's return in the Full Gear media scrum, Tony Khan said a few interesting things. He said in regards to whether CM Punk will return, TK said he can't comment about that, but has nothing but good things to say about his contributions to AEW in the ring in regards to the show. So he very clearly still has, it's no secret, he has an admiration of CM Punk, as seen by his Double or Nothing media scrum, where he's talking about this effing guy, he's made all this money and such and such. He very clearly wanted to build this company around CM Punk this year, or at least have him be the most featured guy. So he's still not burning this bridge publicly, but there's still a lot of water that needs to go under this bridge. There's a lot that needs to be done to repair this bridge if he's going to be back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to think about it from Tony Khan's perspective. And by the way, at that media scrum yesterday, Tony Khan confirmed what I think we probably already knew, right? Which is that he didn't know in advance that Punk was going to say what he did at the All Out press conference after the show.
I would hope not. Yeah. If he did and let him go out there, I would be a little bit shocked.
That would be worse.
Yeah, that would be much worse.
But surely he's annoyed, right? I get how you don't want to kind of annoy the CM Punk fans. There's a lot of passionate CM Punk fans out there, and so maybe that's why he's saying the positive things that he's said. But again, even if Tony Khan does see some future, how? Because of everything we've said, like the Elite. I don't think you can have CM Punk and have the Elite, given everything we've heard that's happened. And he's already clearly made his decision which of those he's going with. So I think that ship has sailed, right? Yeah. And elsewhere, if you're someone else looking to employ CM Punk, you've got to think the last thing you saw this guy do is go on an unplanned rant without telling your employer while sat next to your employer. So apart from Triple H, who obviously has personal history with CM Punk anyway, even another promotion, you've got to be concerned if you're running a wrestling promotion about whether CM Punk is going to be easy enough to work with. right? And I just think, who can do it? With which promotion do all the stars align? With WWE, I don't think so, because of Triple H and because of all the things we just said. Because with AEW, I don't think so. Even if Tony Khan wants him back, which I question, given what happened at All Out, it's impossible there, I think, because of the Elite and Colt Cabana and all that kind of stuff. So where else? I mean, New Japan, would he go there? Would he do just a couple of matches there, like a one and done or something? I don't know, but wherever you look where CM Punk could go, it seems to me there's quite a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the most likely option coming out of all this is that we've probably seen CM Punk have his last match.
Yeah.
I think that's the most likely of the scenarios that we're being presented with. But at the same time, if asked as a fan watching this, what I would like to see, I would like to see them be able to make money with all this.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to see them all get along, and maybe this is just unrealistic at this point, but I'd like to be able to see them all get along and be able to move forward and have a more professional way of going about things. But of course, we have seen, and we've seen the reports that CM Punk has been voted off the island, so to speak, where the backstage atmosphere, they don't want him there. We've heard Chris Jericho say that he was a cancer to the locker room. These are not things that just kind of people move on from quickly at all. So we can talk about what CM Punk wants to do, what Tony Khan wants to do, what the relationship is with Colt Cabana or the Elite, but there is like such a massive can of worms when it comes to this that a lot of the time we don't even have time to get to in the conversation because there's so many other things. But if the locker room atmosphere isn't there, you probably don't see it happening. So a lot of things clearly will need to change for CM Punk to be back in AEW. And again, going back to the first quote, things getting worse from here, it doesn't seem like things are getting better.
Yeah, but then also, what's the route to it getting better?
Exactly.
Like, I can't see any way in which that ship turns around. You know, like how do you get back to a situation where relations are good enough with CM Punk and AEW for that to work? And I agree with you, by the way. It's annoying, right? It's really, really annoying as a fan because we all like CM Punk in the ring, right? We all want to see CM Punk wrestle. I'd love to see CM Punk and Steve Austin have a great match.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's physically possible from Austin's perspective, but yeah, it would be great, and it would be amazing if they could make money out of what happened at All Out and turn it into an actual worked situation. But I just think this is one of those times where the real world is going to be the obstacle that can't be overcome. I'm afraid. Sorry to be a pessimist. But that's where the signs are pointing, right?
Pessimistic Dave strikes again. Tell us what you think is going to happen with CM Punk, whether he's going to return to AEW, whether him and Colt Cabana can smooth things out, whether him and AEW can smooth things out, whether he'll go back to WWE, whether he'll wrestle Steve Austin at WrestleMania. And if you want to have even more AEW, WWE conversation, make sure you check out Ollie Davis's new video right here on the WrestleTalk main channel. That is WWE is screwing with AEW. It's a deep dive into the relationships the two companies have had, and it's a very good deep dive analysis of all of that. So make sure you give that a watch. It's an excellent time. You won't regret it. In the meantime, Dave, thank you very much for joining me here on this WrestleTalk Reactive News. We will see you next time. Jam that jam.